Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. Last year sometime I made two videos. One was for a horse and pony bridle bag and the other one was for the expandable shoe storage bags. I sell these in the shop as shoe bags and wine bottle gift bags and all sorts of other things. When I made them, I'd made them as an unlined version because I was using my upholstery fabric. And from those two videos, I've had numerous requests to make a lined version of this bag. It's been doing my head in for the past 12 months. I didn't actually have any idea how I was going to make a lined version. And over the past couple of weeks, I've been mulling it over. I did come up with a way to do this as a lined bag. And turns out it was actually really simple. This video that we're doing today is not going to be done with upholstery fabric. I'm going to be using a cotton outer and a cotton lining, and we're going to be using a fusible batting on the inside of the main fabric as well. And I'm even going to use a regular dress zip rather than my continuous zips. So hang around and I'm going to show you how to make a lined version of this expandable storage bag. Okay, here's what we need. This is going to be the outer piece of fabric for our bag. It's 12 inches wide by 22 inches long, and you want to have a fabric that's non-directional. And I've also stabilized this with a really lightweight fusible batting. So you need batting the same size as your fabric. Then we have a lining. I've just got a quilter's cotton here. And for the lining, we want 12 inches wide by 22.5 inches long. For my handle and a little tab at the bottom, I've got 2.5 inches by 12 inches, two small strips of fabric for the zipper tabs, which are 1.5 inches by 3 inches. And then I have a 14-inch dress zip. So rather than using my continuous zipper tape, I'm going to be just using a regular dress zip today. So these are all things that are easy to obtain, or you would probably have them in your sewing room already. The first thing we're going to do here is take the 2.5 inch strip by 12 inch strip, fold that in half lengthwise, and then fold the raw edges in and then fold it in half. And we're going to stitch down both long edges. This seems a little bit thin. That's because it is. I didn't have enough fabric to cut a 2.5 inch strip, so I think this is only about 1.5 inches, but that's fine for the purpose of this video. I'm happy with the width of this little strap. So I would recommend using a 2.5 inch strip and following the same procedure. So I'm going to take that to the machine and stitch down both long edges. Then I'm going to cut off a 2-inch strip from the bottom, and we'll keep that for the bottom tab later. These two tabs here are for the ends of the zip. Where this metal tab is here, I'm going to cut off this end here, and I'm going to do the same thing at this end. I'll open the zip out, make sure that's nice and level there, and I'll cut this side off as well. I'll open out the zip just a bit, line up the metal teeth there, and I'm just going to trim off on the inside of the metal. Grab one of these tabs, place right sides together. It doesn't matter that the tab is a little bit wider than the zip, that's not a problem at all. We can trim that later. Take your zip end and just place the edges together, and we're going to place the fold of the fabric over the edge of the zip and clip that in place so that that doesn't move. And you want to make sure underneath that your zipper teeth are actually next to each other and not too open like this here. So just butt them up next to each other. We're going to take this to the machine and stitch straight across, and we'll stitch a couple of times over the area where the teeth are. Now, with our fabric being 12 inches wide, we only want 11 inches of length in our zip. So from the edge of my zip here, down here, I'm going to measure 11 inches and cut that off. So now what we have is an 11-inch zipper. At the other end of your zip, do the same thing. Grab your tab, fold that in half and clip that as well. And we'll take this to the machine now and stitch down both ends, and remember to double stitch or triple stitch over the area where your teeth are. We'll take this to the machine as well, stitch down both long edges of the straps. Make sure that when you're bringing the open end of your zip under your machine that your teeth are actually sitting close together. and straight down both long edges of your handle. If you're sewing to sell, then go and put a label on one of the short edges of your fabric, and you'll only put that down probably about 2 inches. Here's our zip. Take the flaps of your fabric and just push it out, and you can see that you've got the right side of your fabric on the right side of your zip. This is such an easy way of doing zipper tabs without having the bulk at the end of your fabric. These edges we're going to trim off later, and they'll also be hidden away inside the lining, so it doesn't matter that we have raw edges all over the place. Everything's going to be hidden. Now that we have our tabs in place, we're going to place a zip over the top of the short edge of the fabric. With my label here, that's the front of my bag, I'll have the bigger handle on the left hand side, and when I open the zip, it'll be going from left to right like this. I've trimmed the sides of the zipper tab as well so that they're nice and level with the zip. Take your main fabric, find the centre and mark that, and mark the centre of your zipper as well. So once you've found the centre of your zip, place that over the top of your fabric, and you can pin or clip that in place all the way along. If you prefer to use pins or clips, go right ahead and do that. I like things to go a little bit quicker for me. I don't like bulk in my fabric when I'm sewing, so I always use a double-sided tape. Place that over the edge. Now this white that you can see here is just the edge of the selvage of the fabric. Place your tape on the edge there and take your zip, line up the centre, and then just press that down evenly along the top edge of your fabric. Then we'll repeat that to put the lining on. So I'm going to place another bit of tape over the edge of the zip there, and then I'll grab my lining, place that right side together, line up the side seams of the lining with the side seam of the main fabric, and then line it up along the top. Okay, we can take this to the machine now and stitch all the way down this edge. Once we've done that, we're going to open it out, move the lining behind the main fabric, and we'll top stitch. When we top stitch, we're only going to top stitch from the side where the tab and the zip meet, just here, down to the other end where the zip and the tab meet, and we'll stop. We don't want to stitch over the tabs. We'll back stitch at the beginning and the end. And when you get to the section where the zipper head is, just move that out of the way and continue sewing. When you're sewing the zipper layers together, you will actually start at the very edge of your fabric and go right to the end of the fabric. It's only when we're top stitching that we don't want to go from one end to the next. So move the lining away from the zip, and as I said earlier, start doing your top stitching from where the fabric and the zip meet. And just when you get to the beginning of the tab there, backstitch. You may have noticed that I didn't use a zipper foot when I inserted this. I've just used the regular foot of my machine. To be honest, I was just a bit too lazy to change my foot. So if I had used my zipper foot, I would have been able to get my fabric much closer to the edge of the teeth. For this bag, I'm happy for the zip to be more visible. It goes nicely with the fabric. We're going to the other end now, place another row of tape down, and then we will line up our zip again, the centre of our zip with the centre of our fabric. We'll put another strip of tape along the zip, and then line up your lining again. Make sure it's lined up on the side and along the top. And we can take that to the machine and sew that down as well. And then we'll do the top stitch again like we did before. The other thing I want to do here is take the lining and just fold that out, and we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam right along that folded edge there. When you do that, come down about 1/3 of the way. We'll do a back stitch at the beginning and the end, and do a back stitch at the beginning and the end here. So we're just going to stitch 1/4 inch along here. Then you can turn your bag the right way round, open your zip out, and we're going to move the lining out of the way again, and you've just got to bring the zip underneath your foot. So you can line up the edge of your bag there, And it's just a little bit of manipulating as you're doing the top stitching. Remember to make sure your lining is out of the way. Open out the fabric so that you've got the lining on one side and the main and batting on the other side, and put a pin or a mark right on the very edge of your fabric. So you'll do that on both the lining and on the main fabric. Before we do the next step, we have to put our handle and tab on. So take this small tab and place that just over the top of the zipper tab at the very end of your bag on the right hand side, and the longer handle, you can put that on the left hand side. We're going to place each side of the handle 1.5 inches from the center. I'll take that to the machine and quickly go and stitch that closed. So then we have the tab, the little tab at one end and the long handle at the other end. It's a good idea to go and open up the zipper now. This section here that we haven't stitched, I'm just going to open that up, and all I'll do is take the point of my seam ripper here, and about 1/2 inch further on from the end of my stitching line here, I'm going to go in on the side there and in between the layers and just open that up. You can use your scissors if you want to, until about 1/2 inch beyond that stitching line there. So this will be where we turn our bag through. So we're just making like a false seam at the bottom of the bag. If you finger press that, you'll be able to easily close up that seam at the bottom later. We've got our chalk mark on the main part of our fabric. We're going to line that up with the center of our zip just here. So in between where the tab is, we'll place that chalk mark and we'll clip that in place and spread the lining apart and repeat for the other end. Flatten that out and then take your lining and we'll do the same thing. So we're going to line up that seam at the bottom edge of our lining with the center of the zip, same at this end. Okay, now that we've got our main piece and fabric pieces clipped in the center, take your lining and just move that out of the way. So we've just got our main fabric here with the batting on it. We're going to fold this edge up 2 inches and same on this side. I'll turn that around, flip the lining out of the way again, and we'll repeat for this side. We'll fold the edge in 2 inches. Okay, so we now have our main fabric folded up, and we're going to do the same with our lining. So this time move the main out of the way, have your lining faced up, and we'll fold this up 2 inches as well, and repeat that for both sides. Once you've folded the edges up on both the main and the lining, just flatten it all out and just check that you've got everything lining up on the sides here. Okay, we can take this to the machine now, and we are going to stitch from the edge of the zipper tab here all the way down, and we'll do the same on this side here. Then when you've done that, you'll repeat that for the lining on both sides, and then you'll repeat that at the other side as well. You want to sew all 4 sections of each side separately. It'll mean that you've left an opening at the zipper ends just up the top here. We're going to stitch that in place once we've done this next step. So we'll go and sew these side bits down for all 4 sections on both ends. As soon as we've done that, then we can go and close up this opening here, making sure that we overlap the stitching lines. And when we're doing this section where the zip is, that's where we'll be sewing all the layers together, but we won't be sewing all these layers together in this first step. So I'll keep the lining out of the way here, and for the main fabric I'm going to be stitching just from the edge of the zipper tape. I don't want to be stitching any part of the lining just yet. Where the bulk is from the fold, I'll double stitch that. flip the lining out of the way here, and I'll do the same at this side. Where all that bulk is in the fabric, I'll double stitch, and again I'll stitch up to the tab. Then whilst I'm at this end, I'll do the same for the lining. I'll turn that the other way around, move my main fabric out of the way and stitch up as far as I can go. And same over here. So I've stitched from here down on both sides, and the same on the lining side as well. We've got that little bit of an opening just here. We're going to close up all of those layers in there. So you can now leave the lining and the main nice and even, and we'll stitch from here to here, and we'll just back stitch over that and make sure that you've actually got the seams from both sides of the fabric. And we'll do the same on the other side. Okay, trim your corners on all sides, and you can see we've gone and closed up that center section there, so we've got our flaps separated here and here, but just where the zipper section is, it's all been stitched together through all of the layers, and we've done that at both ends. Turn your bag the right way around now. When you've turned your bag the right way around, take the seam at the top here and just pull those seams apart here. So that's where the fold is in the fabric. Do that at both ends, and then you can just grab the end and snap it together like that, and repeat for the other side. And then you can turn it the wrong way around, and we'll do the same for the lining. And just finger press that down, and where we've got that false bottom here with that little bit of an opening, we'll just take this back to the machine and stitch it closed. So we'll just pinch the edges together, and those raw edges will be folding underneath because we've pressed it earlier. Once that's been closed up, you can turn everything the right way around and just tuck all those folds in underneath. And there we go, we've got our expandable storage bag, exactly the same that you would have for the horse and pony bridle bag, as well as the shoe storage bags that I did in previous videos. So we've got a long handle at one end, a short tab at the other. Open it out, and you've got your lined pocket on the inside here. When you look on the inside, the fold that we have here, you'll actually see that folded flap on the inside of the lining, but that's okay because it still gives us plenty of room to be able to store all sorts of things in this bag. That is the lined version, and it will fold away just as neatly like that. So there you have it. We finally got a lined version of this bag. This one is quite a bit smaller, so if you wanted to do this particular bag in a lined version, you would use the same dimensions, but just make the longest edge of your fabric 1/2 inch longer, and that's to accommodate for that false seam allowance on the bottom of the fabric. I don't remember what the measurements were for this one. And you'll do exactly the same for that horse pony bridle bag. Whatever the dimensions were, add 1/2 inch to the longest measurement that's in the video. So there it is, the lined version of the shoe bags or the bridle bags. You can now use this for craft, knitting, bits and pieces, anything you like. And there we have it. Even a small pair of shoes. I'd originally started making these bags as dance shoe bags because I have a lot of dance shoes, always taking a bag with my shoes in them to dances. And that's how that product actually came about in the store. And yeah, I've sold over 100 of them in the past 12 months. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that satisfies the need for those people that wanted the lining inside the bag. And I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.